Hello everyone. Welcome to the Places in News session of September month. This is the second session after the index season report. The first thing that we see that is international locations, and the first location that we're going to see is Nagorno-Karabakh region. Now, Nagorno-Karabakh region, this conflict that is going on between the Azerbaijan and the Armenia is basically it's been going on from September and before that, and then it's escalated, and now it's still the talks are going on. Now, this event is not a singular event, so as to say, but it's just that the conflict has escalated at this point of time. As we will discuss, the issue is going on since 1991, since the collapse of the USSR. First, let us see in which context we are discussing the things. So the context is, or the places that is there, that is, you can see the Azerbaijan near the Caspian Sea. This is Azerbaijan, and there you can see Armenia. In between these two countries, you can see big players such as Turkey, you can see Russia above, right? And you have also, because the Muslim population is involved, you'll also have the countries which are interfering, that are the Muslim world, the Arab world. Majorly, the Turkey is a big player along with the Russia. Now, let's discuss the conflict in brief. From a UPSC perspective, we should not go too much into the conflict, but just understand the very basics of it. That's all we need to know. Now, first of all, this particular region lies in the territory of the Azerbaijan. You can see this is the territory, the orange color territory of Azerbaijan, and this small enclave which is there, this is the Nagorno-Karabakh region. Now, within this enclave, who lives? The ethnic Armenian people live, and they have some sort of self-government in this region. Okay, so this is the ethnic. So they trace their authority to the Armenia, that is the other country. Okay, so it's a breakaway region that is inside the Azerbaijan, but run by the ethnic Armenians. If you go a bit into the history of the conflict, both the countries were earlier the part of the USSR. Both the countries were earlier the part of the USSR, that is in the Cold War time. When the USSR broke, when the USSR has broken, and when the USSR has gone down, then what happened? USSR has said, okay, the Azerbaijan will take care of this territory, the whole territory that is Azerbaijan. And when this happened, so according to the international laws, this Nagorno-Karabakh region belonged to Azerbaijan. Why? Because the USSR said so. That okay, this is the reason we cannot hold back all these unions. Okay, so this particular region, this is the boundary of the Azerbaijan, and Nagorno-Karabakh lies in this region. So according to the international laws, this region still is in the Azerbaijan. But who lived there actually? Who lived there? That are the Armenians. So the ethnic Armenian rose up in rebellion, and they said, no, 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 we cannot live under the Azerbaijanian overall construct. So that is the issue here. Now this conflict, first of all, is based upon the idea of, first of all, territory. It is based upon the idea of territory, and secondly, it is based upon the idea of resources. The resources which are there with these countries. For example, you can see this region. A lot of countries these countries are dependent upon the oil and the gases, because the Caspian Sea is there, Black Sea is there, nearby Mediterranean Sea is there. They have their own EEZs. So that is why there is a lot of conflict between the oil reserves that is there among the countries, and that's why the big power is also getting involved. Now, currently the conflict is basically the very easy. So basically, these people who live in the Azerbaijan region, some sort of clash happened between the Armenia and the Azerbaijan. You can trace the similar story what happens between India and Pakistan. Both the country hate each other like anything. Very extreme nationalism, extreme to extreme nationalism can be seen in these two countries. Azerbaijan hate Armenians and Armenians hate Azerbaijan. Now, Turkey also is in the favor of the Azerbaijan's claim, that Azerbaijan says that this territory, this Nagorno-Karabakh, we have the control over it. Russia tries to mediate whenever such conflicts break out, and periodically such conflicts used to break out. Just like we have seen the Kashmiri issue, the conflicts tend to break out at any juncture. Something happens and the conflict breaks out. So Turkey is in the favor of Azerbaijan. If you remember, if you recall, or you can Google it, that is Ottoman massacre that is known as the Armenian massacre. So Turkey denies this massacre, but it is one of the history that is being read in the Armenia, that the massacres of the Armenians were carried out by the Ottomans. Before Turkey, that was the area of the Ottomans. So that's why Turkey and the Armenians are at odds with each other. And that's why Turkey is supporting Azerbaijan along with the resources which Turkey wants from the Azerbaijan. Both the countries are very, very small countries. And hence the big country tends to control them. So this is the overall geopolitics of this area. And this much we need to know. So first thing, Nagorno-Karabakh region lies territorially inside Azerbaijan and claimed by, or who is de facto ruler of this place, the ethnic Armenians. So this is the only information that is relevant to us from the UPSC perspective. But yes, going forward, for example, you're writing an ethics and essay, this event can be, or this conflict can be a good example to when you express your thoughts on extreme nationalism, when you express your thought based upon how resources can create conflict or how geopolitics create territorial conflicts. Let's move to the next one. We switch from geopolitics to the environment. Now, this region, that is the known as the Pantanal region of Africa. This region is this Pantanal here, and it is shared with Bolivia and Paraguay. So this is the geographical feature that is there. So they are the world's largest wetlands. Okay. Now the word Pantanal means is a Portuguese word for swamps. So these are the wetlands, and we all know what are the ecological significance of the wetlands, right? They are the kidneys of this ecosystem. They are the places which helps us in so many activities, the ecological services, the resources that they provide, the climate, major role in the climate mitigation, helping us to mitigate the floods and so many things. Now, why it's in the news? Because it is burning from below and above. We will see how below and how above. If you see the fires in this particular Pantanal region, from 2019's fires are there, and you can see the intensity of the fires that is there in 2020. Now in 2020, the region has experienced one of the major droughts that is there in the 50 years of history. One of the severe droughts it has the place has seen. And when such droughts are there, the life is sucked out of this Pantanal, and the creatures are dying, and these things are happening. Let us see some things about Pantanal. So it's world's largest tropical wetland, lies in the tropical area. It comprises of the 3% of the entire world's wetlands, very important environmentally and ecologically. It has the highest density of the animal, that is jaguar. So yeah, you can remember this. Highest density of the jaguars that is there. But what happens in Brazil, when we read Brazil or Latin America, we only think of these Amazon rainforest, isn't it? So in that regard, this becomes important. So UPSC tends to target sometimes a bit peripheral area, but which are important to us overall. Now, burning from above means this is the fire, the wildfire that are there. But it is also burning from below. That means some smokes are there, these smokes are there, but the fire cannot be seen outside. So they are known as the underground fire. That means below the surface fires are there. And why these fires are below the surface? Because some of the flammable deposits now are basically compacted. So from the surface you cannot see the fire. On the surface you can only see the smoke, because all the vegetation, the flammable deposits get deposited beneath this area, and that creates a lot of basically flammable substance, and because of which you can see these smokes, right? So you can see fire from above, that is the normal fire that is there, and also fire from below. And fire from below is even more difficult to control, and that is why this region is suffering from major ecological loss. So what we need to remember, that is a Pantanal region, Brazil, Paraguay, and mainly in Brazil the problem is there. Brazil, Paraguay, and Bolivia, these three regions are there. It is the world's largest tropical wetland, jaguar population, and these are the few things that you need to remember. Let's go to the next one very easily, very quickly. Let's do it. So Crete Island, Crete. So it's one of the largest and the most populous of the Greek islands. So it's a part of the Greece, and this is the island. This is your Greece. This is your Greece country, and this is the Crete Island. Okay. Now, why it's famous, or why it is in the news? Because of the context that we have discussed in the international affairs in our August month. Now, in the August month, we have discussed how Turkey, Cyprus, and Greek are at a crossroads with each other with respect to EEZ in the Mediterranean Sea. Again, you can see the presence of the Turkey and the under the presidency of the Erdogan. What is happening? Military expansion and all these things are happening. You know? So that is why they are facing a bit of clashes. And one of the major island that is also in the news, because the Greece does a lot of talking from that particular island, that's why that remains in the news, that is a Crete island. Okay, you can read more about the conflict from the IR section last month, August month. All the referencing that I'll do all the referencing only from August 2022, not before that. Now let us see a few locations in this place. Very important area as far as the international locations are concerned. Now first see the location that we have discussed, that is the Crete island. So this is your Crete island, right? Then you have this Aegean Sea, you have Sea of Marmara, you have a Black Sea, and you have a Sea of Azov. So you can see four simultaneous. Then you have this is Mediterranean Sea. Okay, so you have this Mediterranean Sea and this five seas, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seas are there. And in between these two, there are important straits are there. Straits are basically the water bodies which separate two big water bodies. So you can see this strait, that is Strait of Dardanelles, and this strait, that is Strait of Bosphorus. Two straits you need to remember. Then one more strait is there between the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. That is your Kerch Strait. So there are three straits that we have seen in this map. What question you can expect? Basically, it becomes a more a trivial or a trivia kind of a GK based question, but you can expect one question on UPSC, and that's what you have to prepare. So Kerch Strait, then Bosphorus Strait, then KBD. You can something like that. KBD. Kerch Strait, Bosphorus Strait, and Dardanelles Strait. And in between, first Sea of Azov, then Black Sea, then Sea of Marmara, and then Aegean Sea. Very quickly, let's see. So the first is your Kerch Strait between the Sea of Azov and your Black Sea. You can see this area of Crimea, very important place which the Russia has captured from Ukraine. This is Ukraine, this is Crimea, and this is Russia. So Russia has captured Crimea to get its entry into the Black Sea. Black Sea again very important resource wise, very important. So Russia has captured it from Ukraine in 2014, and that was again a major international crisis at that point of time. So Sea of Azov and the Kerch Strait. So this is there. So now this is occupied by the Russia. Then you have the Sea of Marmara, you have the Black Sea, have a Sea of Azov. Then you have the Strait, Bosphorus Strait, and you can see the Istanbul located here. Istanbul, earlier name was Constantinople. It is not the capital of the Turkey, but the metropolitan city or the cosmopolitan city of the Turkey, just like Mumbai of India. So Istanbul, very important city. So it is at the Bosphorus Strait. Then you have Sea of Marmara. Then you have the Dardanelles Strait here. Right. Then you have the Aegean Sea here, Dardanelles Strait, and Bosphorus Strait. And then you have island of Crete. So these are the location. You need to see it as a whole region. So you see 3 to 4 seas that are there and 3 to 4 straits that are there. Let's discuss the next one, that is the Pripyat River. Pripyat River. Now this river is basically moving from here, from Poland, it goes to there, and more importantly, the capital of the Ukraine, that is Kiev, is located on this particular river. Then it goes here, and then it finally deposits into the Black Sea, again Sea of Azov and the Crimea, the similar region. Now why it's in the news? One more thing. This is the site of one of the greatest nuclear tragedies in the world that has happened. That is the Chernobyl disaster. There's a whole series in HBO on Chernobyl. It's only some small episodes are there, and you can see on Hotstar Premium if you have a subscription or otherwise. So Chernobyl disaster happened in 1986. Very huge disaster happened, nuclear disaster. Now there is a project of the European countries to connect. Let us see this project first. There's a project of the European countries to connect the Baltic Sea and the Black Sea. And in this project, you have you can see here, and in this project, a very important river is Pripyat River, which is a part of the E40 project. Basically, E40 project's ka purpose kya hai? The purpose of the E40 project is to connect the Baltic Sea and the Black Sea. And in between this river is a very important river, that is Pripyat River. Now this river also is the site of the, first of all, Kiev is on it, and also the Chernobyl is accident happened nearby this area. And that is why when you have this river, and to make sure that E40 you have to do a lot of dredging of the river, isn't it? So big canals you have to make, dredging you have to do, some sort of work you have to do. And when you do that, from the Chernobyl, a lot of nuclear disasters, nuclear radiations have spread. And it is said that river, if it is dredged, this nuclear waste will get into it, and the people such as Kiev, the people who are living in the capital will be affected. The food and everything will be affected by it. So that's why it becomes critical. If it is done, it can create spell disaster for 28 million people in the later on the downstream of the this particular Chernobyl accident. So this river near the site of the infamous nuclear accident could wreak havoc on the estimated 28 million population of the Ukraine, said by the WWF. So this is the river that you need to remember. E40 project also thoda sa yaad rakhna. Let's come to the next point, that is the Okinawa Delta. So Okinawa Delta is present in your this Botswana. Botswana, that's a country in the South Africa. So Botswana is a landlocked country. First of all, you can see a landlocked country. So Botswana and Zimbabwe are the tale of two countries. On the one hand, Zimbabwe become a totalitarian country under the military dictatorship of, almost de facto military dictatorship of Robert Mugabe. And on the other hand, Botswana has become one of the thriving democracies that is there. We teach that, I teach them in my essay sessions when we talk about the democracy, that how the democracy flourishes, and that's the uh, tale of two countries very nearby. Let's talk about Okinawa Delta. This delta you can see in this river here. Why it's in the news? It's in the news because a lot of mysteriously from July or August month, a lot of elephants have been seen dying like this. Very poor sight, isn't it? So a lot of elephant side have been found dead in this Botswana. Now Botswana, you can also find one of the highest densities of the elephants in the Botswana, and that is a cause of big concern. And the scientists have tried to find out that why this is happening, and they figured out it is because of the cyanobacteria that's there. So toxins are produced by the cyanobacteria, and that is killing all these elephants in this Okinawa Delta. So Okinawa Delta may, because of the cyanobacteria, we'll discuss in detail about cyanobacteria in our environment series. Okay? So that are creating the toxins, and because of those toxins, these elephants are dying. There's one more location that you need to keep in mind in the Botswana, that is the Kalahari Desert. So this is your Kalahari Desert. इसको भी याद रखना है. You need to remember this. ठीक है? चलो. Now let us see the locations of India. The first location that we're going to see is Kosi Rail Mahasetu. So it's been recently inaugurated. So this is the Kosi River. You can see this is your Kosi River. It's a transnational river. Okay, like from this it goes here, and the rail is bridged between this and this. Now you'll say, what a big point! Small bridge has been made. Small bridge has been made because the main point is because of the nature of the Kosi that is there. Now Kosi flows from a very high mountainous region, so it has a very high silt with it. Very high silt content it contains. When it has a high silt content, so when the river goes and it start depositing a lot of silts, and because of which what happened, the river course changes. And when the river course changes, it becomes very difficult to make bridges on this particular place. Now this particular bridge that is made, this is made from this place Senali and to Sonagarh. This is the bridge that we are talking about. Okay, and this is just a zoomed out version of this, zoomed in version of this. Now the history of this bridge is also very long. Mr. Modi has said that 86 years in making. We'll see how 86 years. Now first time it was tried in 1887 when they wanted to make a meter gauge link between the Nirmali and the Sahargarh. But in 1934 the rail link was washed away, and because of the meandering river nature of the river Kosi. So river Kosi goes like this. Instead of following a very easy simple path, it goes this. It changes course every year. And that is why Kosi is also known as the sorrow of the Bihar. Because when a river changes its course too much, what happens? it takes away a lot of, okay, for example, people live along the rivers, plains, very good place to for agriculture, for housing and all, not for housing but for agriculture. So it takes away a lot of their homes, a lot of their fields. So that is why Kosi is known as the sorrow of Bihar as well. Now, in 1934, the rail link was washed away, and from 1934 to, you can see, in 2020. So you can see 86 years in making, isn't it? And finally, this bridge has been made. Now, this bridge was sanctioned during the Atal Bihari Vajpayee reign in 2003 and 4. Only 1.2-kilometer run. One more important thing is that you can see this bridge is very strategically placed along the Indo-Nepal border. So in that regard, always become strategically important. Hello. So let's talk about Kosi River a bit. So Kosi River is a transnational river. Okay, Kosi River is basically made up of 7 tributary rivers, which finally make this Kosi River. So it's a trans boundary river between Bihar and Nepal, and that's why, because of the 7, it is also known as the Sapt Koshi. It has a 7 upper tributary which have their own sources in Tibet over the Nepal. It joins Ganga finally near the Katihar. You can see it joins Ganga here. And because of the unstable nature and the changing of the course, heavy silt, this causes a lot of flood. And that is why it's known as the Bihar sorrow that we have discussed previously. Now, next project that we're going to see is the Mekedatu project. Now, Mekedatu project is basically, this project is based on, built on Kaveri. So idea is to provide the, for example, this is your river Kaveri. Let us understand this. This is your Kaveri river. Now the Kaveri river is going on, and you have to feed a very huge population that is in Bangalore, drinking water purpose. And they want to create a dam here, a small dam, that is a Mekedatu project, and from there they'll divert the water for the Bangalore. So this is the project, and this project is made at the confluence of the one of the tributary, that is Arkavati and the Kaveri. So at this juncture they will create this Mekedatu project. So you can see the difference, the distance between Mekedatu and Bangalore. So from there the water will be diverted to the Bangalore for the drinking water purpose specifically, because of the needs of the country, cities such as Bangalore. The location is along the Kaveri in Karnataka. Karnataka wants a huge reservoir across the Kaveri Mekedatu to meet the Bangalore's water problem. Okay, Karnataka to seek note for Mekedatu project. Now, obviously, when this was built, the Tamil Nadu having a problem. The Tamil Nadu raised the problem, and that is also the whole part of your Tamil Nadu Karnataka Kaveri water dispute. So it is one of the components of the Karnataka Bangalore dispute projects. In the September, it was the news that Karnataka has to seek note for the Mekedatu project. Let us discuss about the Kaveri River along with that. So along the Kaveri River, you have the, for example, that the tributaries which are there, for example, Kabini right hand tributary, you have the Bhavani right hand tributary, Amravati right hand tributary, you have the left hand tributary such as Hemavati, Simsa, you have the, let's say, one more that was there, that is your Arkavati, sorry. So these are your right hand, left hand tributaries and the right hand tributaries. Okay. Tributaries are important. Kaveri river itself is important because that remains in news always. In the very South India, this is a very, very important river. Okay, so this, the source of the Kaveri river is in the Brahmagira hills in the Karnataka. So this is the, for example, source of your Kaveri river. Then you have these tributaries which we have discussed. The drainage basin here, when it goes into the Bay of Bengal, it is known as the Garden of the Southeast Southern India. In fact, first agriculture, a special agricultural zone is being built in the, we'll discuss it somewhere. Such a special agricultural zone is being built in the Kaveri Delta. Special agricultural zone is built in the Kaveri Delta. Tributary we have already discussed. Now, if you talk about the map, something more about it, so, you need to know a few important cities that are built on the Kaveri River. For example, you can see Tiruchirappalli, that is there, Trichy. You have Thanjavur, that is situated on the Kaveri River, right? You have the Mettur Dam, that is there, Mettur Dam. You have the Krishna Sagar Dam, which is in the Mysore. So these are the different things that you need to know about a particular river. Now, if I talk about this question has already been asked that Trichy situated on which river? What was a component of a question? And last time we have done one particular question that which are the national parks which are in the river basin of the river Kaveri. So in that regard, Kaveri rivers becomes very, very important for our discussion purposes. Next is we get discuss the Mundra port. So Mundra port is basically the largest private port in the India, located on the northern shores of the Gulf of Kutch. You can see Gulf of Kutch and this Mundra port, and this is the Kandla port. Now Mundra port is run by the Adani company. Okay. Now it was in the news because the Adani has the partner that is French, and the French have the link with the Chinese company. And for that regard, it was in the news because now the Indian government is scrutinizing all the Chinese investment that are there in India. That's why it's in the news. And also it was in the news in the July month that it has overtaken JNPT, the Jawaharlal Nehru port that is in Mumbai, to emerge as the largest container port by volume. So isko yaad rakhna hai. You have to remember this. It's a private port run by Adani companies in the Gulf of Kutch in Gujarat. Next is the East Kolkata wetland. So East Kolkata wetland is basically one of the 36 Ramsar sites that are there in India. It is the biggest ecological asset of the city and the Ramsar site. Basically, East Kolkata wetland is used for the wastage that is there from the Bengal is taken to this particular place. So wastewater has been first fed into these ponds, and then some biological thing happens, biological degradation happens. But now NGT has put up some guidelines that how much waste you can put or wastewater can be put into it, because otherwise it is hampering the ecological integrity of the this East Kolkata wetlands as well. So they need to take care of it. So this is your East Kolkata wetland. Some of the things that you need to remember: first, the location. Obviously, it's very near to Kolkata. You can see the Kolkata, and it's very near to it. East Kolkata wetland. Secondly, it's a Ramsar site. Thirdly, it's used for the city waste is being dumped into these wetlands. Obviously, like all the wetlands that, for example, we have seen the Brazil wetland, all the wetlands around the world are facing a lots of problem. Next, the last one, that is a Gorumara National Park. So Gorumara National Park, you can see situated in the West Bengal, but West Bengal, the upper side of the Bengal, not West Bengal, not Bengal, but the upper stretch of it, the Darjeeling area, the Sikkim area, you can remember. In this place, why it's in the news? Because of the death or the poaching of the poaching has been done of a bison or gore. Now that is what investigated, and our investigation was done by a snuffer dog, that is Orlando. So he has done this investigation, and the investigation was found, and finally they found the culprit as well. For our exam purpose, we need to remember that this national park lies in the West Bengal. Look, national park, there are so many national parks. We cannot remember all the national parks, but at least we can try to remember the tiger reserves, all the tiger reserves, and also the national parks which are in the news. Whatever we can remember in the current affairs, we need to remember it. So overall, that's a human limitations behind. There are limitations, we cannot remember more than that, but we need to strive so that we know at maximum to maximum few things. And it's not tough also. There you have to know only few things about it according to it, right? So it's located in the Duar region, Dooar region, and this Duar region is in the Himalayan foothills, especially the eastern Himalayan foothills. Okay, it is known as the Indian rhino. It is known for the conservation of the Indian rhinoceros. Conservation of the Indian rhinoceros, because you can see nearby the Kaziranga, Manas, and all these things are nearby only, few kilometers stretch away. Then one of the river that is there, you can remember this name, Jaldaka River, which is a tributary of the Brahmaputra River, which flows through this national park, and it forms a very important watershed between the Ganga and the Brahmaputra. So Ganga River here, it's tributary coming to Ganga, and then you have the Brahmaputra. So both countries are, you can see this is Ganga and this is Brahmaputra. So this area lies at it helps as a watershed between the two basins, so dividing line between the two basins. What is this Duars? Basically, Duars, you can see the tea gardens. So basically, they are the alluvial floodplains in the eastern southern part of India that lies south of the outer foothills of the Himalaya, north of the Brahmaputra river basin. So you can see their equivalent of whatever is there in the Tarai area होता है ना. Let's say in UP and Bihar and Uttarakhand, there is a UP basically Tarai area that is there. Then the equivalent of the Tarai area in this area in the eastern Himalayas, this region, Darjeeling region and this national park region is the Duar region. In your geography, you can expect one question. What do you mean by the term DOORS? Duar. OOARS. Chalo. So that's the end of the session today. We have discussed around 7 international ones and the 7 national ones. Let us quickly solve few questions. So the first question is with reference to Goga Beel Lake, consider the following statements. It's an oxbow lake in the state of Bihar. The water body was recently notified as a community reserve and the conservation reserve. It is formed from the river Mahananda and Kankar in the north and Ganga in the south and the east. So it's a last year current affair. Last year we have taught Goga Beel Lake. So it was the first. Yes, it was the first. State's first. Sorry, it was the state's first community reserve and the conservation reserve as well. We'll see the difference between community reserve and conservation reserves later on in our ecology series, or you have prepared that in your static environment course. If you see the location of it, the location you can see it's in the Bihar. In the Bihar, you can see this is the location that is there, right? So very nearby, at a very boundary of the Bihar that is there. This is the Bihar's boundary, and this is the at the boundary of the Bihar and the West Bengal. You can see this particular wetland, Goga Beel. So not near Patna, and you can see river Ganges and the other small river that are there. So south में कौन सी river है? Ganga river. So it's a bird paradise. That's why it is discovered as the given a status of the conservation reserve and the community reserve. ठीक है? चलो. It is the same place where your Kosi also meets your Ganga nearby Katihar district. हमने अभी डिस्कस किया था ना. We have discussed it. So all the 3 options are right. Yes, it's an oxbow lake. Oxbow lake क्या होता है? Please prepare from your static. Oxbow lake कैसी होती है? ऐसी होती है, ऐसे shape में, like this. When your river is there, it meanders a lot. So what happens? It goes like this and ultimately takes this route. So this lake is being cut. So it's an oxbow lake. Has been recently notified and the rivers that are there. Chaliye. Next, let's do the next question. It's a previous year question. That is, consider the following places: Dampak Tiger Reserve, Gumti Wildlife Sanctuary, and Saramati Peak in Nagaland, Gumti Wildlife Sanctuary in Sikkim, and Dampa Tiger Reserve in Mizoram. Which of the following pairs are correctly matched? You can pause the video and try the answer. So before starting this question comes into the category of strive, let's say, because one of the things that you need to focus while your preparation, that is the northeast, especially the locations of the northeast or the ecological conservation sites that are in the northeast, whether it be tiger reserve, elephant reserve, national park, wildlife sanctuary, जो भी है northeast का, you need to keep in mind and you need to prepare one map also. So you can see all the 3 ones are given from the northeast itself. Let us see one by one. So first one you can remember, it's a first one you can remember, that's a that is Gumti Wildlife Sanctuary. So this wildlife sanctuary is situated in your Tripura region. We have only 1 to 2 in each state, so you can remember like that. So one is in this Gumti Wildlife Sanctuary, it's in your state of Tripura. Okay. So next one is your Dampa Tiger Reserve, it's in the state of Mizoram. It's a tiger reserve, so वो तो must है. This is the must that you must know. You are expected to know this. So it is situated in the Lushai Hills in the Mizoram. So Lushai Hills is also there in Mizoram, declared as a part of the Project Tiger, and they are home to diverse flora and fauna, obviously. And then you have Saramati Peak. Saramati Peaks is at the basically border between the Nagaland and your Myanmar. One of the problems that are faced between the Nagaland and the Myanmar border is the very high hills, isn't it? That's why the security concerns are also there at this particular border, because very high hills, highly forested, and these problems. Hence a boundary stone you can see between the Burma and the India. Earlier Myanmar was known as Burma, and this is the Mount Saramati Peak. So if we see the answer of it, just let's say, what is the answer of this question? So Dampa Tiger Reserve. So Dampa Tiger Reserve, Mizoram, right? Gumti Wildlife Sanctuary, Sikkim, wrong. It is in Tripura. And then you have Saramati Peak in Nagaland, right? So answer is 1 and 3. So answer your C becomes right. Okay. Let's look at the next question. It's also a previous year question. UPSC, I have seen UPSC likes a lot about this Brahmaputra tributaries. थोड़ा ब्रह्मपुत्र की ट्रिब्यूटरीज को रिमेंबर व्हाई आल्सो इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज ऑफ द a lot of setus that we have read last time in our places in news. Last time we have read a lot of setus which are there, right? Bhupen Hazarika Setu, Dimang Setu, and these are also situated on these rivers. ठीक है, so these rivers always remain in news. So थोड़ा सा ब्रह्मपुत्र की ट्रिब्यूटरी को you keep in mind. The question is, which of the following river, Barak, Lohit, and Subansiri, flows through the Arunachal Pradesh? Which of the following flows through the Arunachal Pradesh? You can pause the video and try the answer. Okay, so if you look at these rivers, let's say if you talk about because in the northeast you have one of the biggest river, that is your Brahmaputra. So Brahmaputra comes here, and the river that meets is Lohit and Subansiri. Okay, Subansiri and the Lohit are the part of your Arunachal Pradesh. This is Arunachal Pradesh, right? They are part of Arunachal Pradesh, but you have the river that is Barak, and it is not the tributary of Brahmaputra. Barak is not the tributary of Brahmaputra. पहली बात तो ये याद रखनी है. It is not the tributary of Brahmaputra because it originates in your Manipur state, and then it flows east westward, and then goes Manipur, borders of Nagaland, then Assam, and then finally meets the confluence or the meets these two rivers in your Bangladesh. So this is your Barak River. Barak River, remember, just to highlight, Barak River is not the left bank tributary or the tributary of Brahmaputra. Barak River in India also, it originates from Manipur. So there is no question of Barak being part of your Arunachal Pradesh. Barak River also remains in the book news because of the Tepai Mukh Dam. Now, Tepai Mukh Dam is one of the area of contention between the India and the Bangladesh. India and Bangladesh. So this dam is situated on which river? You can see this is the river which is going. That is the Barak River. Okay. So this is your Tepai Mukh Dam. So what is the answer? Barak not, Rohit and Subansiri yes, and then your answer becomes 2 and 3. Next, fourth question, national motto of India, that is Satyamev Jayate, inscribed in from which emblem? Again, previous year question. Inscribed below is an emblem taken from. कहाँ से लिया गया है ये emblem? From where this emblem has been taken? Very easy question. Sorry, yes. So answer is Mundak Upanishad. So Mundak Upanishad, you need to know about Upanishads. That's part of your static thing, right? So Upanishads are also known as the Vedanta. So that is the end of Vedas. End of Veda, both in the terms of chronology as well, and both in terms of the speculation, the philosophical speculation as well. So for example, just to give a very layman's perspective, Veda starts with a lot of rituals that are there. But to give the final philosophical explanations based on it, that is the part of your Upanishads. Upanishads contain the concept of the basic, the Hinduism philosophy, such as Brahman, who is Brahman, what is the Atman, right? What is the Sansara, what is the cycle of karma. So all these things are discussed in deep in these Upanishads. And based upon this teaching of this Upanishads, you have the philosophy such as Vedanta philosophy, Shankaracharya, Ramanujam, and other people. Those who have done nothing but the interpretation of this Upanishads. So whatever Upanishads have been written, based upon that, you have the philosophers such as Shankara, your Ramanuja, Vallabhacharya. These are known as the Vedantins or the Vedantic philosophy. Now, Upanishads basically have around 108 Upanishads have been seen, and out of it, 10 there are a Mukhya Upanishads, 10 Mukhya Upanishads. And out of the 4 that are in the option are the 4 Mukhya Upanishads. तो उनको थोड़ा थोड़ा याद कर सकते हैं. For example, you have a Katha Upanishad, part of the Yajurveda, Mundak, part of the Atharveda, Aretya, part of Rigveda, and Chandogya, that is a part of Samveda. So I know this becomes a very tough question. That question can lie into from strive to no category. But Tuki, it's given in the previous year paper. See, it's a previous year question. Now you are expected to read a bit about at least 1 to 1 line about each and every Upanishad. For example, your Katha Upanishads also contain the story of Nachiketa and Yam. Nachiketa or Yam ki story hai. It's a very famous story where the Nachiketa asks for 3 boons from Yamraj, and Yamraj gives him the 3 boons, and the story goes on. The secrets of death and all these things are being discussed like that. So, though it's a part of the UPSC previous year question, hence you don't have any escape or any argument. Sir, what tough question tha and this questions is not expected. No, all the questions on these Upanishads separately can also be expected. For example, which Upanishad belong to which Ved, for example. They can ask you a tough question with respect to it. The last question that we're going to discuss, which of the following passes that connects India and Nepal? Lipu Lake, Nathula, Zipla, and Zojila. The mountain passes are important. You need to prepare only 10 plus passes. All the passes when we discuss, go to YouTube. So many passes are there, not relevant. Only for UPSC purpose, 5 to 6 to 10 passes are relevant. And I think over the course of period, we'll discuss all these 5 to 10 to 12 passes. Not more than that are required. You can pause the video, think about it, try the answer, then we'll move on. Now, 4 passes that we are discussing in the question. First is the Zojila Pass, which connects your Srinagar and Leh. We'll discuss in detail. Then you have Lipu Lake Pass. This is not the location. This is the location of the Lipu Lake Pass. Okay. Then you have the Nathula Pass, and then you have a Zipila. Very only 4 kilometer distance is there between the Nathula and the Zelepla Pass. Okay. So you remember which is in the north. That is the Nathula. Let us see one by one. First, if we see Zojila Pass, or La means itself pass, so you should not say Zojila Pass. La itself, the word La means pass. Now it's a mountain pass in the Kargil district. It links Srinagar to Leh. We'll see more in the maps. It links between Ladakh and the Kashmir, now 2 different union territories. And the tunnel is being made, that is the Zojila tunnel. Now these are the 2 tunnels that are there. For example, this is Srinagar, and you have to go from Srinagar to Leh. So you'll go through this path, this path, this path, then you go to this is the path basically been saying. And it's a very high reach, very snowbound area. So you need tunnels to pass through that. And that's why the government of India is thinking of building 2 tunnels. First tunnel is at the Zojila tunnel. Okay, that is at the Zojila Pass. And then you have one more tunnel that is at the Gandarbil, that is your Zomor tunnel. So you have 2 tunnels. So it's a tale of 2 tunnels basically. So you have this tunnel, Zomor tunnel, and second you have the Zojila tunnel. Okay. So Zojila tunnel basically abhi dono ka kaam shuru hai. And I think work is started by Mr. PM Modi, and second tunnel work is also going on. So it is expected when both the things are done, both the tunnels will be connected. It will create an all-weather connectivity between the Srinagar and the Leh. Especially seeing such an important juncture at a very important place, this very strategically placed this is, right? Very near to LOC, line of control. So this is your Zomor tunnel, you can see, and this is leading to your Zojila tunnel. Okay? Sorry. And this is a Srinagar Leh National Highway. I hope up to samajh mein aa gaya hoga. Srinagar to Leh, Zomor, then Zojila, 2 tunnels are there. When it will be connected, it will provide a all-weather connectivity. So currently road get closed because of the snow for 6 to 7 months an year. So tunnel bana denge. And this is your Zojila tunnel. Okay. So it will create a bi-directional, this kind of tunnel is created. In fact, Modi ji wo haath hila rahe the na, that tunnel. Next is your Zepla Pass. So Zepla Pass ki location dekh lo, yahan pe hai. It's in the Sikkim, and it is near the Chumbi Valley. We'll see Chumbi Valley location. So it connects the Sikkim and the Bhutan area and passes through the Chumbi Valley. Now this is the area we are talking about. This is your whole Chumbi Valley. This is your Nathula. This is your Nathula, and only 4 kilometers, that is Zepla. Okay. These are the 2 passes that are there. This whole area is Chumbi Valley. Okay. And this is your Bhutan. And you can see this is very near to your Siliguri corridor. And that's why it's very important. This tri-junction of Bhutan, Nepal, Bhutan, China and India is very strategically important for India. And the Doklam crisis and everything happened over there only. So we'll discuss somewhere in different context, in Chinese context. Next is Nathila, connects Sikkim and Tibet, or Sikkim or China, offshoot of the ancient Silk Road, and trade route between India and China started it. 1962 it was closed after the war, and in 2006 it was reopened. That is the Nathula, very important trade place as well between China and. Next is your Lipu Lake Pass, very famous Lipu Lake Pass. You can see again at a tri-junction of India, Nepal, and China, Tibet. So international mountain pass, tri-junction, China, India, and Nepal, used by the pilgrimage to go for the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, Mount Kailash and the Lake Mansarovar. That's known as the Kailash Mansarovar, very famous pilgrimage route for the Hindus especially. First Indian border to open for trade after your 1962 clash. So in 1992, it was the first pass which was opened for your India and China trade. Now, last year we have discussed this India and Nepal clash, India-Nepal border dispute. Now, one of the context of the India-Nepal border dispute was given by this road, that is Dharchula-Lipu Lake road. So from Dharchula to Lipu Lake, they are trying to build, India tried to build one road for the Kailash Mansarovar Yatris, so that they can easily go to this Mansarovar and they can do their Mansarovar, their pilgrimage and their religious thing. But the Nepal government has said, no, this area lies, this, because according to the Nepal government, this area is a disputed area. This area Nepal also claims, India also claims. Okay? And this was the dispute. Dispute is going on for long time. Kalapani dispute. We'll discuss it when we'll discuss India-Nepal relationship. We'll discuss the dispute. So for now, Lipu Lake Pass we need to know, and the context in which the Nepal border dispute started. So India decided, okay, we will make a road between these two things, and the Nepal this diplomatic troubles. Nepal foreign ministry says no, this is not done. This is a disputed area and you cannot do so. So that created a lot of problem between India and Nepal. In the April month, we have thought about it, but we'll discuss it again. So let's say if this question. So Lipu Lake connects India, Nepal. Lipu Lake, yes. Nathula, no. Zepla, no. Zojila, no. So answer is 1 only. So with respect to this, let's finish the session. Let us quickly revise what we have done in this particular session. We started a discussion on the Nagorno-Karabakh region. Then we talk about Panthal region. We talk about the Crete Island. Then a lot of seas and the straits that we have seen. Then we have discussed about the Pripyat River, that is in the because of the Chernobyl incident, and the E40 project. Then we discussed about Okinawa Delta, then Indian location, Kosi Rail, Mahasetu, Kosi River, then Kaveri River, Mekedatu project, Mundra Port, East Kolkata wetlands, and finally Gormara National Park. Then the 5 questions related to the location, and 4 questions related to location, and the first question, that is the Upanishads. So with this, we finish our session. So see you all again in our next session, that is the governance 1 and 2 session. Okay, will be uploaded within 1 to 2 days after this particular session. Thank you everyone. See you all in the next class. Bye bye.